I want to first welcome everybody to our very first installment of Customer Service Game Changers. This is a new series that we've designed to chat with leaders who have set a new bar in the industry so that you can learn how to deliver customer service that stands out from the crowd. And I am actually honored to be in the presence of support royalty. Our first guest is Mercer Smith, VP of CX Insights and Community at PartnerHero. And Mercer and I, while we have not hung out in real life, we need to change that ASAP. We've been in the same room together. So you were the first person that I had saw speak at a support conference. This is about 8 years ago, I think in Atlanta. So I've been following your career for a very long time and a very full circle moment for me. So thank you so much for joining. Enough about me gushing about you. I'm going to let you share in your own words, why the work that you're doing at PartnerHero is changing the industry.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kenji, and thank you so much to your whole team for having me on. I'm really honored and stoked to be here, right? I think this is a really cool thing. So happy to be here with y'all kicking it off. Um, as Kenji said, my name is Mercer Smith. I am the VP of CX Insights and Community at PartnerHero. We are a CX operations company. I'll get more into what we do in just a moment. If you look at our team size here, we've got quite a substantial support team. So 3,000 plus people answering direct support tickets. We're handling phone, we're handling chat, we're handling email, all of the different channels that you could possibly imagine outside of like in-person retail support. And the volume, which I was actually surprised by when I pulled it myself, is 7.3 million conversations coming inbound every single month. So the cool thing about PartnerHero is that we started as an outsourcing company working with companies like Grindr and Doc Martens and Headway and, helping really transform their CX. And we've since moved into a CX operations company. So having a software platform which you can use in order to organize all of your CX efforts. So organize your QA. We also work with companies like Front and other help desks and help centers to help kind of answer questions for our customers and help to optimize their experiences. So everything from AI to knowledge-based management, all of that stuff. And our mission is really to leave companies that come through to us better than we found them. So we know that you're not going to need to work with us forever, right? Like hopefully we will be able to help you to the point where you can then end up transitioning and doing all of this stuff in-house. But while you're with us, we want to educate you and help you get to a point of having really meaningful CX and being able to build that on your own. So in terms of where we operate, we are everywhere. So we are a remote company, which means we hire in all different countries, but we have offices in USA. We have 2 offices in the Honduras, 2 offices in the Philippines, 1 in Romania, 1 in South Africa. And then we're actually in the process of doing another build out in the US and a build out in Colombia and India. So we're really excited to be able to have that level of global coverage for all of the roles that we currently offer. And it's that level of support, I think, and that level of scope that really helps us deliver amazing experiences. As Kenji said, I've been in the support game for a long time. My first role was when I was like 13 doing tech support at the local library. And in that time, I think probably I've never been more inspired than the people that I've seen working at PartnerHero and the folks that I've gotten to kind of help mentor and guide through their experience journey, as it were. And, one of the best responses that I've ever gotten from a customer was I wrote like a pretty simple response back to them. This is when I worked at Wistia. And in response to my answer, they sent me this GIF, which is from Bridesmaids. But I think the reason it's so powerful is like, we don't necessarily want to just give our customers the right answers, right? Like in this case, I was actually telling them like, no, sorry, we don't have this. And here's what you can do or an alternative that you can use to be able to accomplish what you're looking for. And they came back with this. And like, what more could you ever want from a response than a customer telling you that they love you, especially when you're saying that you don't have something, right? So I'm really excited to talk more about CX and talk more about support and kind of where things are going and where we're at right now. Just one more plug before we get into it. I did write a book on all of this, if you're wondering why you might want to listen to what I have to say. It's called CXOXO, Building an Experience Your Customers Will Love. And it's coming out on January 1st in ebook edition and then print edition shortly after that. So if you want to pre-order it, you can pre-order it on Amazon. Sorry, I know people don't like the Bezos company all the time, but there's that. And I'm also happy to talk about any of this stuff directly. I'm sure that the front team will drop my LinkedIn information somewhere so you can reach out if you need. Thanks. Sorry, I just talked so much, Kenji.
No,
Thank you.
I would love you to talk even more. I just want to give a quick shout out to my support team that is watching this. Whoever gets me for Secret Santa, get the book. Get the book for me. That's all I ask. All right. Well, I've come very prepared with questions that I'm going to ask Mercer, but we're also going to save time at the end so that we can try to answer as many of your questions as possible. So just a quick warm up, of the webinar chat to make sure it's working. Happy belated birthday to Mercer, who celebrated last week. Could we send her some birthday love in the chats just to do a little quick test, and I will get into it. Perfect. All right, Mercer, first question. Can you share an example of a time that customer service was a revenue driver for your business or helped your team, kind of stand out?
Totally. I think the best example that I have of this is when I worked at Trello, right? So, Trello, for those of you that don't know, is a freemium product, right? So historically, they've offered like a really large chunk of their product services for free with the ability to upgrade if you needed like business or enterprise. I know that's changed a little bit with the absorption into Atlassian, but historically that's how it's always worked. And something that I think we did at Trello, which really surprises me to this day hearing it, and surprises people when I speak to them, is we were handling free support for like 26 million users. So
Wow.
people would reach out and get the same level of support if they were a free user or a business user or an enterprise user. And our handle time was like 6 minutes or something like that. And it was just wild. It was really, really wild. And I think the reason that customer service was kind of a game changer there is usually when people are using a freemium service, especially at that time before CX had kind of like come up into this real differentiator as it did, I think, during the pandemic, people weren't expecting us to get back to them that quickly. They weren't expecting us to really get back to them at all if they were just using like our free version, right? And so they were always really surprised. And that level of loyalty drove a lot of engagement in terms of like, well, I just want to pay for this product. I know I don't need to, but like I use it so much that I want to, right? And the support is so good that I want to. And I think, yeah, I think that's a huge piece, right? Like we talk about support as a cost center. At any point, Trello could have said like, nah, we could be spending this money that we're spending supporting these like millions of human beings on really anything else and have it be productive. But they recognized that it was a really important value driver and reputation builder to still be providing support for all of those folks.
That's amazing. I know that for me personally, one metric that I'm trying to look into more is, like measuring support's impact on trials, on like free, the freemium experience, because I think we're so quick to say, oh, it's self-serve, but actually there's a whole support team supporting all of these customers. So it could be self-serve in the sense that, you don't have a dedicated team per se, but they're generally a team of humans, on the support team that are there helping. So I think that's a great example. To get to the non-humans subject, which I know is like the hottest topic, and we have a couple of questions around this, so I want to do a couple hot takes with you on this. But since this is the biggest trend, it could be a trend, it could be a wave that we're riding, but it's here and it's real. With all these advancements in generative AI this year, how are customer expectations changing, and like what are you doing to meet those?
Totally. I actually think we're going to see a real big swing back into like offering a boutique human experience as a differentiator. I think as AI is prolific, right? You could use AI for anything. I use AI for scheduling. I use AI to like help write outlines. I use AI for recipes for my sourdough bread. Like I use it for everything. And I think that that's also happening in customer service. That said, I think it kind of comes hand in hand with this misconception of customer service as like a level one entry level job, right? Like yeah, some of the things that people do in support, service, CX, whatever, are entry level, like data entry and responding to low hanging fruit tickets. And so I think, we'll see a lot of that being used. And then because of that, the real differentiator isn't going to be like, how quickly do you respond to me? Because everyone can respond quickly. They have AI to do it, right? This is no longer like a game changing thing. The real game changing thing is going to be like, how are you connecting on a human level with these people? Like, how are you seeing what they need and proactively and preemptively taking care of it? And I genuinely believe that as of right now, this could be different in a year. Like, only humans can do that. Only humans have the kind of EQ, or at least, yeah, only humans have the EQ to be able to handle that type of boutique human experience. And I think if there is AI that offers that right now, it's going to be at a price point that puts it out of range for any CX team to be using. That's something that's going to be, like next gen tech. So I think the customer expectations are going to change in that way. It's not actually going to be related to AI. It's going to be this like boomerang effect, right? Where folks are caring
Mhm.
more about like, okay, I get it. You're quick and you have all this stuff handled and you can like deflect my tickets. And if I do get through to you, like, what are you doing to recognize me as a human?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, I think that for customers, we're going to put them through the ringer, through every automated bot flow. And by the time they reach a human, yeah, they should expect like amazing service at that point. I don't know if you saw the new Google Gemini demo, but it's pretty freaky with the drawing and stuff. So I know anytime we talk about AI, we always preface with this year because that's all we know. Like we can't
Right.
guess what's going to happen. It's changing so quickly. But I agree with you. I think that it's about what AI can't replace and not what it can. So the human experience is going to be just even more important.
Yeah, I mean, but we see this in everything, right? Like for a long time there was this like push towards automation, not just in CX, but like in life, right? Like we wanted bagged bread and we wanted prepared foods and we wanted all these things. And then there's every time you get that like speed up momentum, you end up boomeranging back to like, okay, let's slow it down. Like people want hand-baked bread. People want bespoke coffee solutions. People want like, and I think that we're going to see that in CX as well. Like I think customers are going to want that kind of thing, and speed is going to be less of a focus. And I think we're going to see that like a slow movement in CX, I think, is coming,
Yeah.
and that's a
And so
hot take, I think.
yeah, I agree, but I agree with you. And I think that there's a lot of us, like I attend these conferences, I feel like I'm pretty in tune with the community, and I think everyone's interested in AI, but they don't necessarily know exactly how to use that. What's your advice for folks who are thinking about riding the AI wave?
Oh, I mean, not everyone needs to ride it. I'd say like just because you feel like you should doesn't mean you have to, right? Like I tell my kids this all the time. Like just because Jimmy's doing it doesn't mean you also need to. Like you could use kind of a little bit of internal discernment, right? Like AI is not for everyone. I think it really depends on what kind of support solutions you're providing and what your customers' goals are, right? Like not even your teams, because a lot of us have similar goals, but like when your customer is using your product, what what are they trying to accomplish? If you have an answer to that and AI helps them do that faster or helps them do it faster, sure, go ahead. But in terms of like everyone needs to be using a bot and everyone needs to have ticket deflection and everyone needs to be doing this, like that's not necessarily the case. And your volume or the types of tickets that you have might not make that necessarily feasible for you. So I think that's mine. Like, if you're thinking about riding the AI wave, I would say take a second before putting on your wetsuit and getting on the board, and like maybe make sure that that's what you want to be doing, right? Like maybe there's something else that you could be doing with your energy that's going to be more meaningful. And also, if you do decide to get on, make sure that you're using it in a way that supports you. Like, check out your channels, see where people are reaching out, see what people are doing, and see what they need, and then tailor your solution to that, you know?
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So I don't think that's a hot take at all. I think it's great, just life advice in general.
Yeah.
Um, so this is kind of like, I feel like the most personal question you can ask another support leader that's not, that is work related is like, show me your metrics. Like if I were to look at your analytics dashboard for you, Mercer, like what would be your top metrics that you focus on? And I know it's a little different at PartnerHero, but I feel like it's probably applicable for the audience as well.
I mean, honestly, it's the same because PartnerHero is just like a ton of support teams, right? Like
Right.
it's literally just like so many support teams. And so a lot of the metrics that we look at to try to ensure that we're hitting operational efficiency are the same ones that a, a leader at a CX team would do. So like the same stuff that I was looking at Wisia or Trello or wherever is what I would look at here. And my answer to that is compound metrics. So, I just did this thing with you on CSAT, so I think that's relevant here. Like, I think using CSAT in tandem with a metric like effort score, or in tandem with looking at specific buckets of tickets, can tell really meaningful stories. I think if you are not yet on like the compound metric train or wave or whatever you want to ride, I think that you need to be. And part of the reason for that is because it helps you speak a common language with everyone else in the business, right? Like we go to these standbys of like all like average handle time or CSAT or time to first response, like all of those things, because it's what other people that are not in customer support understand. Like it's something that they can like cognitively grasp, and they're like, oh, okay, I've been at other companies that measure this and I know where we should be. But like there is a better way to do this. And the better way is that you find more meaningful stories that you can tell around it. So it's not just like, oh, I'm just benchmarking against what I know from other businesses, versus tailoring it to the story of your business. Like, okay, let's track CSAT as it relates to this feature tag and see how it changes over time, right? First off, or if we like release some new macros that we're using in support, does that change the CSAT? Or if the product changes features on that feature set, like does that change the CSAT? And being able to communicate in a meaningful way around that, I think. And, to take it a step further, you can end up correlating support metrics with like fiscals, if you've got like sales and finance guys that you're trying to communicate to, or, if retention is something that you're tracking, say like, okay, here's our CSAT, here's our retention. Do they correlate? Do they not? And if so, like, where can we pull out some threads to understand more? So I guess that's kind of a roundabout way, but I get asked that question a lot by a lot of different people that I'm mentoring, just people in the community. Like, I know that you've had this conversation of like, how do I communicate with other teams and how do I get people to care about what I'm doing in support? And that's my answer is like, if you're not tracking that, track that, not only because it'll be useful for you, but because it'll be useful for you in terms of communicating with your team. It'll be useful for your team in getting more advocacy, you in growing your career, you in having more like business savvy even. And just like kind of put a cork on that bottle, you don't even need to like have a hypothesis, right? Like just compare random stuff and see
Yeah.
what happens, because you might be surprised, right? Like you might be like, oh shoot, as my average handle time went down, so did my CSAT. Why? Like that doesn't make sense. That's definitely something I should tease out. So I generally recommend like just kind of throw spaghetti at a wall and see what sticks and see if there's anything surprising or unsurprising to you, even in like some wacky combination, because it's a good health check.
No, that's great advice. I kind of want to steal this time to ask you for advice. It's a little selfish of me. I've got some spaghetti that I want to throw, which
Yeah.
is, it's a term that I'm trying to manifest, but it's not catching on. And maybe your influencer status can help me. Maybe folks like listening can help me too. But I'm looking into BSAT, which is bot assisted satisfaction. You can think of it like CSAT for AI.
Yep.
When I was first looking into potentially using like just augmenting the conversations with AI, not necessarily replacing it completely, but like helping it, help with a draft, like add your tone to it. One thing that I had considered was potentially measuring those assisted conversations, which are tagged, so like you mentioned compounding that tag versus CSAT and seeing if that, if you've got a terrible BSAT, it's probably a good sign that this experiment's not working and you want to pull
Yeah.
back, which is also a good learning. But I just wanted to see if I could get that out in the world.
Totally. I'm here for BSAT. I actually said something somewhere to someone that's been like making the rounds about how if you're using bots, you should actually be QAing them even more than you're QAing your support team. And so I think that aligns with this BSAT thing. Like, I think you should be, yeah, I mean, if anything, I'd say BSAT is more valuable than CSAT. But because of the fact that bots are technically like product, right? Like, and I think the main thing that I have with CSAT is that it's not necessarily directly tied to the level of support that you offer. But because bots are really more of a product, like
Right.
as like a productized version of your service, I think BSAT makes a lot of sense. I'm here for it.
All right. Well, maybe that could be in your next book, one of the new chapters.
Maybe I'll just go and add it as an
Yeah.
addendum. Yeah, I'll be like, yeah, attributed to Kenji.
Would be a dream come true. All right. Well, I've got one more question, and then we've got like a fun rapid fire lightning round. So the last thing I want to ask you is, it's almost the end of the year, right? It's the holidays. We're all thinking about not working, but also we're thinking about, oh my God, next year, what are we gonna do? Like, what's our OKRs? What's some advice or, one thing that you think leaders should be thinking about heading into the new year?
Yeah, coming back to like my bespoke sourdough and coffee conversation, I think something that I'm thinking a lot about is like, how do we help our customers create better rituals? So for me and my product, that's like, how do we get them like logging into this operations platform and looking at their metrics? Like, what are the things that I can do that make like Biff, my customer, want to log in and say like, okay, I'm going to drink my coffee and look through all of my suggestions for today. And I think everyone should be thinking about that. Ritual is so important in human life, and we've become more and more detached from it the wilder that things have gotten over the past 5 years. And I think it's really important that we help our customers figure out how to cultivate that space within themselves or integrate ourselves into the space that they've already created. So I think thinking about that for all customer service people is helpful going into the holiday because it gives you a second to like breathe, especially if you're in like that Black Friday, Cyber Monday headspace still and you're like, oh, what's going on? Taking like a step back and thinking about that could be really helpful and a good way to slow down and be intentional as you're going into that goal setting for next year.
I love that. All right, we're going to hop into rapid fire so that we have some time for questions at the end. So I'm going to ask you questions, just railing them off as quick as possible. And the first thing that comes to mind, you let me know. All right, Mercer, early bird or night owl?
I think that time is a construct. I have too many children to choose whether I'm an early bird or a night owl. I just have to be alive and awake all the time, especially as like an executive with multiple children.
I,
So
I can relate to that answer. Okay. What is one customer service cliche that you absolutely disagree with?
um, I think that it's like that it's not a career or that it's like a jumping off point into like something sexier. Like I've been doing this forever and I love it and I would love to keep doing it forever. And so anytime someone says that to me, I'm like, you just haven't done your discovery on like what the options are for you.
I totally agree. I've only done this. This is all I know. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love
yeah.
it.
And it's the best. Yeah, I
It is
love
the
it.
best. It is the best. Um, what is one work tool that you cannot live without?
Something to do with my hands in meetings. So I will crochet, I will sew. I also have like 9 million tubs of thinking putty. I need something to do when I'm in meetings. Otherwise, I get distracted and like I just go and scroll LinkedIn. Uh, sorry for anyone at Partner Hero that's watching me and is like, you weren't cross stitching in our meeting, Mercer.
Okay. I mean, the camera can only see to here, so
Yeah,
that's fine.
yeah. Theoretically, I
Um,
was.
how about, so, okay, you can only choose one channel to communicate with customers. Would it be email, tickets, live chat, phone, or social?
Email, obviously. 100%. I get so much anxiety on social support. It's like not even funny. And I don't even call my dad on the phone. Why would I want to talk to a customer?
Love it. And then last thing is just, one tip that you can give all of us, all the folks listening, whether it's the way that they set up their teams or just, life advice in general. What's one tip you want to leave them with?
Yeah. This is something I'm working on as well, but give yourself props like every single day. What you're doing is hard and amazing. And that's whether you're in sport or you're just a human being out humaning in your life. Like give yourself props and wake up each morning and, recognize that you're doing amazing.
Love it. I agree. I don't know if it's the nature of being in support. We always put everyone else first, or at least for me, I know that's the case. So reminding yourself that we're doing great. Like we're killing
Kenji, do I have a talk for you? One of my
it.
friends, Heidi, I don't know if you know Heidi Kron, but she gave a talk about how this might be spicy, but how everyone in support is likely in some way a little bit traumatized or at one point was taught in their life that the way that they provided value was by caring about others. So maybe
That's
something to listen to or something.
a deep cut. I'm gonna
I know.
actually please send me that after this.
Yeah, it's like I wasn't trying to be dragged at the end of this webinar, but okay.
I'm gonna check that out. I actually think that there's something to that. So we've got a few minutes left. Why don't we try to answer as many questions as possible? I see 3 in the Q&A, and we can just go from there. And anything that we can't answer, we will get to later, and we'll share that out. So we will commit to that. So Mercer, first question: do you have any ideas for ways to make support a company-wide priority to get a top-down buy-in on its importance?
Yeah, I do. I mean, this is a really hard ball to roll uphill, right? But I think that the best way to start is by getting everyone speaking the same language. So as I was talking about earlier, like your metrics, the only reason why like your finance guy or Jimothy from sales cares about CSAT is because they've seen it used before, or not CSAT, but just metrics in general is because they've seen it used before, but they don't know what it means, and they especially don't know what it means for them. So if you can help them understand, like, hey, for every amazing CSAT score that we get, this is the potential outcome for these people. Like we see that people with an 80 or higher CSAT spend X more money or stay with us for this much longer, or, anything like that can be really, really helpful. And I know it sucks that they can't just care about the customers, which is what they should be doing, but translating it into a language that is the thing that they care about is the best way to get that started, I think.
Totally agree. I'm going to give a shout out to Kinsey Clark, who's a part of the sport driven community. He just did a talk about the 5 love languages of finance, which was super helpful. So another resource I'm just going to share out there if you haven't checked that out.
I love
So
that.
another question, I think we can get to 1 or 2 more. What do you do to keep your team engaged? I know you got such a large team, but maybe you've got folks that are rituals that you do to keep them happy and motivated.
Yeah. So I we do regular peer groups for each of the different audiences within PartnerHero. So we've got like operations managers, we've got team leads, we've got that. And we do peer groups for each of those where they can just come and talk about like the one big thing that they're working on, the one big thing that's frustrating them, or, anything like that. And I think that that really helps for such a large team. But in terms of my like direct reports, the people that are coming to me directly, I think you can probably tell from this call, I like to keep it real and hold it down for my team. And so I do that, right? Like I lead with honesty. And when they're not feeling great, I'm like, give it to me. Like, what's going on? What are you not happy about? What am I doing? Or what is the company doing? And I think, I think that's why all of my direct reports from every company that I've worked at are like still my buds and still talk to me like at least once a week, right? Like if you keep it real with your team and you lead with honesty about where you are at so that they know that it's safe to do that themselves, I think that that's really helpful. Because the fact is, they're not going to be motivated, engaged all the time. And you shouldn't expect them to be. But what you should expect is that you can have meaningful conversations about like, okay, here's where you're at. And here's where we can get to, or here's what I can do to help. Right.
I love that. I wish we can have time to answer all the rest of the questions. It looks like we're at one of the questions are, can we share these resources? Absolutely. We will answer all these questions. We will also share links to these resources that we have mentioned so that you can check those out later. I can't believe time's up already. It's sad that this is the end, but this was so much fun. And I just want to tease out for the next episode. So this is, again, the inaugural kickoff. But for the next episode, stay tuned for Game Changers with Mathilde, who's the CEO and co-founder of Front, who's going to speak to a new guest to continue the discussion of how to stand out in the customer service crowd. So thank you so much again, Mercer, for your time. And thanks, everybody, for joining.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.